The Empress did not kill Marcus. She did not kill his squad. Instead, she did something that confused everyone in the Great Chamber. She called for her healers. Vethkai doctors came and took the larva from Marcus's arms. He did not want to let go, but he knew the child needed proper care. They also treated his wounds, spreading a cool gel on his chest that stopped the bleeding and numbed the pain. They did this without gentleness, but also without cruelty. They simply did what was needed. Marcus was given a room in the royal section of the ship. It was not a prison cell. It had a bed, strange Vethkai furniture, and a window that looked out into space. His squad was kept somewhere else. He asked about them every day. The guards told him they were alive and unharmed. He had to trust that they were telling the truth. Days passed. Marcus was brought food, water, and clean clothes. He was not allowed to leave his room, but he was not treated like an enemy. He was treated like a mystery, something the Vethkai did not know how to categorize. On the 5th day, the Empress came to see him. She entered his room alone, without guards. This surprised Marcus. He was, after all, an enemy soldier. But she moved without fear, settling her massive body onto the floor across from where he sat. "I have been watching you," she said, "through the cameras in this room. I have watched you sleep, eat, pace. I have watched you stare out the window at the stars. You do not act like a prisoner. Am I a prisoner? I do not know what you are. That is why I am here." She studied him with her 4 eyes. Marcus felt like a bug under a microscope, which he supposed was funny given the circumstances. "My scientists have examined you," the Empress continued. "They looked for mutations, defects, anything that would explain your behavior. They found nothing. You are a normal human, ordinary in every biological way. I could have told you that. Then explain yourself. Explain why you did what you did." Marcus had thought about this question for 5 days. He still did not have a perfect answer, but he tried. "On Earth, before the war, I was a teacher. I taught young children. They were small and helpless, and they needed adults to protect them. That was my job. That was my purpose. When I found your daughter in that crashed ship, I did not see an enemy. I saw a child who was small and helpless and scared. My body reacted before my mind could catch up." "Your body reacted," the Empress repeated slowly. "You were saying this was instinct? That humans have an instinct to protect young, even the young of their enemies? Some of us do, not all, but yes, it's part of who we are. We call it compassion." The Empress was silent for a long moment. "We have no word for this in our language. The closest word we have means weakness. A Vethkai who showed compassion to an enemy's child would be killed for it. Then maybe your language needs a new word." The Empress made a sound that might have been a laugh, or maybe anger. Marcus could not tell. "My daughter is recovering," she said. "Her leg is healing. She will live because of you. This creates a problem." "A problem?" "In Vethkai culture, when a child is saved by someone, when someone suffers for a child's sake, a bond is formed. We call it Tatharan. It means the child belongs to the Savior, and the Savior belongs to the child. It is sacred. It cannot be broken." Marcus felt something cold in his stomach. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that my daughter has bonded with you. When the healers tried to take her from you, she screamed. She has been screaming ever since, calling for you in the way larvae call for their protectors. She will not eat. She will not sleep. She wants only you." The Empress leaned forward. Her eyes were intense. "You have stolen my daughter's heart, human, and by our law, this makes you family." Marcus did not know what to say. He had expected death. He had expected torture. He had not expected this. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now you must choose. You can accept your place in my bloodline. You can become Kethoran to Princess Sirith. You can live among us, Razor, protector. In return, your soldiers will be freed and return to Earth unharmed. And if I refuse? The Empress's eyes grew colder. Then you reject my daughter. You reject the bond. In our culture, this is the greatest insult possible. I would have no choice but to kill you and your soldiers. And then I would destroy Earth to wash away the shame. It was not really a choice. Marcus understood that. The Empress was offering him a path that let everyone live. All he had to do was give up his humanity, his people, his world. All he had to do was become something no human had ever been before. Can I see her? He asked. Cirith, can I see her before I decide? The Empress nodded. She rose and led Marcus through the ship to the medical chambers. Inside, surrounded by machines and Vethkai doctors, was the larva. She was lying on a soft surface, her small body curled up tight. When she saw Marcus, she made a sound he had never heard from her before. It was happy, pure joy. She tried to crawl toward him, her broken leg dragging behind her. Marcus went to her. He knelt down and let her climb onto his chest again. Her small claws finding the healing wounds she had made before. She pressed against him and made a soft humming sound. She was content. She was home. He looked up at the Empress. The ancient creature was watching him with those 4 glowing eyes. There was something in them that Marcus had not seen before. Hope, maybe, or fear. He could not tell. I'll do it, Marcus said. I'll be her Kethoran. I'll stay. The Empress closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet. Marcus realized with shock that Vethkai could cry. You understand what you are giving up, she said. I understand what I'm saving, she nodded slowly. Then it is done. From this day forward, you are part of my bloodline, human. You are father to Princess Cirith, 7th daughter of the Empress. Your life is bound to hers. Your death will come only when hers does. Marcus held the small creature against his chest. She was already falling asleep, comfortable and warm in his arms. He had come to this world as an enemy. He had stayed as a prisoner. Now he was something else entirely. He was family. And somehow, impossibly, that changed everything. The sky above Snowpollo had not been blue for 3 years. It hung gray and sick, filled with the ash of a dying world. Sergeant Marcus Cole moved through the ruins with his squad, their boots crunching on broken glass and bones. The war with the Vethkai had turned Earth's greatest cities into graveyards. Marcus was 34 years old. He had been a teacher before the war. Now he was a soldier, and he had learned to kill things that were not human. The Vethkai were 7 feet tall, covered in hard shells like insects, with arms that ended in blades sharp enough to cut through steel. They did not talk. They did not negotiate. They simply killed, and they were very good at it. His squad moved in silence. There was Private Chen, young and angry, who had lost his family in the first attacks. Corporal Vasquez, a woman with cold eyes who never smiled. And 3 others whose names Marcus tried not to remember too well. In this war, friends died quickly. They were searching through the wreckage of a collapsed building when Chen held up his fist. Everyone stopped. Through the dust, Marcus saw it. A Vethkai transport ship crashed into the side of a shopping center. Smoke rose from its broken hull. Marcus gave the signal to move forward. They approached carefully, weapons raised. The Vethkai were dangerous even when wounded. Especially when wounded. The ship's door had been torn open by the crash. Inside, the smell hit Marcus first. Blood, but not human blood. It smelled like copper and something sweet, like rotting flowers. He switched on his helmet light and stepped inside. Dead Vethkai lay everywhere. 5 of them, their bodies broken by the impact. Their blood, which was dark blue, covered the walls. Marcus moved through the ship, checking each body. All dead. His squad followed. their lights cutting through the darkness. Chun found the cargo hold first. He called out, and Marcus came running. The hold was small, filled with containers that had broken open in the crash. Strange objects lay scattered on the floor. Marcus did not know what most of them were. But in the corner, in a container lined with soft material, he found something that made him stop breathing. It was a Vethkai larva. Marcus had seen pictures during training. Young Vethkai looked nothing like adults. They were small, about the size of a human baby, with soft shells that had not yet hardened. This one was pale white, almost colorless, with 4 small eyes that reflected his helmet light. It was alive. Barely. It made a small sound, like a bird chirping, and tried to move toward him. One of its tiny legs was bent at a wrong angle. Chun appeared beside Marcus. He looked down at the creature and raised his rifle. "Step back, Sergeant. I'll handle it." Marcus did not step back. He kept looking at the larva, at its 4 eyes, at the way it chirped, so soft and weak. It was afraid. He could see it. This tiny thing was afraid and hurt and alone. "Sergeant?" Chen's voice was harder now. "Move." "No." The word came out before Marcus could think about it. He reached down and picked up the larva. It was lighter than he expected and warm. Its small claws grabbed onto his sleeve, holding tight. It stopped chirping. Chun stared at him like he had gone insane. "What are you doing? That thing will grow up to kill us? Kill it now. It's a baby, Chun. It's the enemy." Marcus looked at the tiny creature in his arms. Chun was right. This thing would grow into a monster. Its people had killed millions of humans. They had burned cities, slaughtered children, shown no mercy ever. By every rule of war, by every logical thought, he should let Chun shoot it. But logic had nothing to do with what Marcus felt. He had been a teacher. He had taught children for 12 years before the war. He remembered their faces, their laughter, their fear when the sirens started. He remembered the ones he could not save. This creature was not human, but it was young. It was innocent. It had not killed anyone. "I'm not killing a baby," Marcus said. "Not today." Vasquez came into the cargo hold. She looked at the larva, then at Marcus, then at Chun. Her face showed nothing. "Command protocol says we destroy any enemy combatants, larvae included." "It's not a combatant," Marcus said. "It can't even walk." "It will be. In a year, maybe 2, it will be 7 feet tall with blades for hands. And it will remember that humans killed its family." Vasquez nodded toward the dead adults in the main cabin. Marcus knew she was right. He knew all of this was stupid. He was risking everything for a creature that would probably die anyway. But he could not do it. He could not look at those 4 frightened eyes and pull a trigger. "I'm taking it with us," he said. "That's an order." Chun laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You've lost your mind, Sergeant." Maybe he had. Marcus did not care. He opened his pack and carefully placed the larva inside, leaving the top open so it could breathe. It chirped once, then went quiet. Its small claws held onto the fabric of the pack. They left the crashed ship and continued through the ruins. Nobody spoke to Marcus. He could feel their anger, their confusion. They thought he was weak. They thought he was a fool. Maybe they were right. An hour later, they heard the sound that changed everything. It came from above. A deep humming like 1,000 insects flying together. Marcus looked up and saw dark shapes dropping through the gray sky. Vethkai warriors. Not 1 or 2, but dozens of them, landing on the buildings around the squad. But they did not attack. They just watched. Their blade arms were ready, their bodies tense, but they did not move forward. They were searching for something. Looking, Marcus felt the larva move in his pack. It made a small sound, and one of the Vethkai warriors turned its head toward him. Even from this distance, Marcus could see its 4 eyes lock onto him. They were not here to fight. They were here to find what Marcus had taken. The larva was important. Very important. And now Marcus was holding it against his chest. Surrounded by enemies, with nowhere to run. Above them, a larger shape descended through the clouds. It was a HFY, unlike any Marcus had seen before. Bigger. Its shell was marked with gold patterns that caught the sick light of the ruined sky. When it landed, the ground shook. It looked directly at Marcus. And then, impossible as it seemed, it spoke. Its voice came through Marcus's translation implant, cold and clear. "Human, you hold my daughter." Marcus stood very still. The larva chirped softly against his chest. The war had just become very personal. Marcus did not move. He could not move. The golden HFY stood before him, twice his height, its blade arms long enough to cut him in half with one swing. Behind it, dozens of warriors waited on the ruined buildings, watching. His squad had their weapons raised, but they knew the truth. If the HFY wanted them dead, they would be dead already. The Golden One spoke again. "Give me my daughter, human. Give her to me now, and your death will be quick." Marcus looked down at the larva in his pack. It was looking up at him, its 4 small eyes wide. It chirped and pressed closer to his chest. "She's hurt," Marcus said. His voice was steadier than he expected. "Her leg is broken. She needs medical help." The golden HFY tilted its head. This was a gesture Marcus had never seen from their kind. It seemed confused. "You speak of the child's needs? You are human. Humans do not care about HFY children. Humans kill HFY children. I found her in the crashed ship. I could have killed her. I didn't." Silence. The golden HFY stared at him for a long moment. Then it made a sound, something between a hiss and a click. The warriors on the building shifted, their weapons lowering slightly. "Why?" the Golden One asked. "Why would you not kill an enemy child?" Marcus did not have a good answer. He did not fully understand it himself. Because she was afraid. Because she was alone. Because killing babies is wrong, even in war. The golden HFY was silent again. Then it raised one blade arm and pointed at Marcus. "You will come with us. You and your soldiers. The child needs care, and you will explain yourself to the Empress." Chun stepped forward. "We're not going anywhere with you, Bug." 3 warriors dropped from the buildings and landed around Chun before he could blink. Their blades pressed against his armor, not cutting, just warning. "You will come," the Golden One said. "Or you will die here. Choose." Marcus looked at his squad. Vasquez's face was stone. Chun was shaking with anger. The others looked terrified. He had brought them to this. His choice to save the larva had put all their lives at risk. "We'll come," Marcus said. "Don't hurt my people." They were taken to a HFY ship that waited beyond the city. It was massive, dark, shaped like a curved blade. Inside, the air was thick and warm, hard for humans to breathe. Marcus held the larva close as they walked through corridors filled with HFY, warriors who watched them with hatred in their eyes. They were put in a holding room. The door sealed behind them. Chun turned on Marcus immediately. "You've killed us. You know that, right? We're gonna die because you wanted to save a bug." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But I couldn't kill her, Chun. I looked at her and I couldn't do it. She's not a her. She's an it. A monster that will grow up to kill humans. She's a child." Vasquez spoke from the corner where she sat. "The sergeant made his choice. Arguing about it won't change anything now. We need to think about survival." Hours passed. The ship moved. Marcus could feel it traveling through space, jumping between stars. The larva grew weaker as time went on. She stopped chirping. Her body became cold. Marcus remembered something from his training. HFY larvae needed warmth. Not just regular warmth, but the special heat that adult HFY produced with their bodies. It was a biological need. Without it, the young ones died. He looked at the larva. Her eyes were closing. Her small claws had stopped gripping his sleeve. Marcus made another choice. He removed his armor, then his shirt. He pressed the larva against his bare chest, wrapping his arms around her, trying to give her his body heat. Her soft shell was cool against his skin. Chum stared at him. "What the hell are you doing?" "She's dying. She needs warmth." "Let her die. Why do you care?" Marcus did not answer. He focused on the larva, holding her close, breathing slowly, trying to keep calm. The creature stirred. Her small claws dug into his chest, scratching the skin, drawing blood. But she was moving again. Her body was warming. "She's hurting you," Vasquez said, watching the blood run down Marcus's chest. "I know. And you're just going to let her?" "If it keeps her alive, yes." The hours continued. Marcus held the larva against his bleeding chest, feeling her claws dig deeper as she clung to him. The pain was bad, but he did not let go. He thought about his students back on Earth. He thought about the children he had watched die in the first attacks. He thought about all the times he had been too slow, too weak, too far away to save them. He would not be too weak this time. When the ship finally stopped, the larva was stable. She was warm, her breathing regular, her small eyes open and looking at Marcus. She made a soft sound, different from before. Not fear. Something else. The door to the holding room opened. HFY guards stood outside. "The human with the child," one of them said. "You come. The Empress will see you now." Marcus stood, still holding the larva. His chest was covered in cuts and dried blood. He did not bother putting his shirt back on. Let them see what he had done for their princess. They led him through more corridors, past more warriors, until they reached a massive door covered in gold symbols. It opened slowly. Beyond it was a chamber larger than any room Marcus had ever seen. It was filled with HFY, hundreds of them, all watching him. At the far end, on a throne of black stone, sat the largest HFY of all. The Empress. She was covered in gold patterns, her shell dark and ancient, her 4 eyes glowing with cold intelligence. She was beautiful in the way that a storm was beautiful, or a blade, or death itself. Marcus walked toward her. The larva pressed against his wounded chest. The room was silent. Every eye watched him. He stopped at the base of the throne and looked up at the Empress. She looked down at him, then at the larva, then at the blood on his chest. "You are the human who saved my daughter," she said. Her voice was deep, filling the chamber. "Yes, you are wounded. The child wounded you. She needed warmth. I gave it to her." The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Then she rose from her throne and descended the steps until she stood directly before Marcus. She was so close he could see his reflection in her dark eyes. "I do not understand you," she said. "My scientists tell me humans are simple creatures, violent, selfish, driven only by fear and hunger. But you saved my daughter. You bled for her. You gave your warmth to keep her alive. Why?" Marcus looked at the larva in his arms. She was looking back at him, her 4 eyes calm and trusting. "Because that's what you do," he said. "When someone is small and afraid and hurt, you help them, even if they're your enemy, even if it costs you something. That's what it means to be human." The Empress stared at him. For the first time since the war began, a HFY looked at a human with something other than hatred. She looked at him with wonder, and with something that might have been the beginning of respect. 6 months passed on the HFY homeworld. Marcus learned to live among creatures who had spent generations hating his kind. It was not easy. Most Vethkai looked at him with disgust or confusion. Some wanted to kill him. They could not understand why the Empress allowed a human to live in the royal palace, to walk freely through sacred halls, to raise a princess. But the law was clear. Marcus was Cathoran. He was protected. Anyone who harmed him would face the Empress's wrath, and no one wanted that. Cirith grew quickly. In 6 months, she went from the size of a human baby to the size of a large dog. Her shell hardened and darkened. Her blade arms began to form, though they were still soft and harmless. Her 4 eyes grew bright and curious. She followed Marcus everywhere. She slept in his room, curled against him for warmth. She learned to speak, and the first word she learned was his name. The second word she learned was Father. Marcus taught her things. He told her stories from Earth, tales of heroes and adventures. He taught her human games, silly things that made her chirp with laughter. He showed her how to draw, holding chalk in her small claws and making shapes on the stone floors. The other Vethkai thought this was strange and pointless. Cirith loved it that the Empress watched all of this. She never interfered. She simply observed, trying to understand the strained bond between her daughter and this human. One day, she called Marcus to her private chambers. "I have been studying your species," she said when he arrived. "Reading your histories, watching your broadcasts, learning about humanity. I wanted to understand how a creature like you could exist. Did you find your answer?" "I found more questions." She paused, her eyes studying him. "Your species is violent. You kill each other constantly, over land, over resources, over ideas. You are selfish and short-lived and weak. By every measure, you should have destroyed yourselves long ago, but we didn't. No, you didn't. And I think I understand why now." She leaned forward. "It is because of people like you. Humans who choose kindness when cruelty would be easier. Humans who protect the weak instead of conquering them. Humans who see a dying enemy child and say, 'No, I will not let this happen.'" Marcus was quiet. He had never thought of himself as special. He had just done what felt right. "Tell me about the war," the Empress said. "Tell me how it started from the human perspective." Marcus knew this story well. Everyone on Earth knew it. 30 years ago, a human colony ship was traveling to a new star system. They detected what they thought was an asteroid field. They fired their mining lasers to clear a path. But it wasn't an asteroid field. It was something else. It was a nursery world, the Empress said. Her voice was cold as ice. "A moon where we raised our young. Millions of children. Your ship destroyed it in seconds. It was an accident. The colonists didn't know. Accident." The Empress made a harsh sound. "That word means nothing to us. In Vethkai culture, when children die, someone must pay. It does not matter if the killing was intentional or not. Blood demands blood. So you started a war. You killed millions of humans to pay for millions of Vethkai. Yes, and we will not stop until the debt is paid." Marcus felt the familiar anger rising in his chest. He had lost friends in this war. He had watched cities burn. Part of him wanted to scream at the Empress, to tell her that humans had suffered enough, that the debt was paid 1,000 times over. But he also understood something now that he had not understood before. The Vethkai were not evil. They were not monsters. They were a people following their own laws, their own sense of justice. In their minds, they were the victims. In their minds, humanity had committed an unforgivable crime. Both sides were right. Both sides were wrong. And millions had died because of it. What if there was another way? Marcus asked. There is no other way. The law is clear. Laws can change. Your law says I'm part of your family now. A year ago, that would have been impossible. But here I am." The Empress was silent for a long moment. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that you let me talk to people. Not humans, but Vethkai. Let me explain what humans are really like. Let me show them that we're not all killers and destroyers. Some of us are teachers and parents and healers. Some of us would risk everything to save a stranger's child. Why would my people listen to you? Because I'm Cathoran. Because I saved your daughter. Because I've lived among you and learned your ways. They might hate me, but they have to respect the bond." The Empress considered this. Marcus could see her thinking, weighing the risks and possibilities. "You are either very brave or very foolish," she finally said. "Probably both." And so Marcus began to speak. He started with the young warriors, the ones who were curious about the strange human in the palace. He told them stories. He answered their questions. He showed them pictures of Earth, of forests and oceans and cities full of life. He told them about human children, how they laughed and played and dreamed. Just like Vethkai children. At first, they did not believe him. Humans were enemies. Humans were vermin. But Marcus was patient. He kept talking, kept showing, kept being living proof that humans were more than what the Vethkai had been taught. Slowly, something began to change. Warriors who had once looked at Marcus with hatred began to nod at him in the halls. Young Vethkai sought him out to ask questions about Earth. Some even played with Cirith, something that would have been unthinkable months ago. The Empress noticed. She said nothing, but Marcus could see her watching with those ancient, knowing eyes. One night, as Marcus sat with Cirith in their room, she looked up at him and spoke in her growing voice. "Father, why do your people and my people fight?" Marcus thought for a long time before answering. "Because we didn't understand each other. Because we were afraid. Because sometimes people do terrible things when they're scared. But you weren't afraid of me." "No, I was afraid for you. There's a difference." Cirith curled closer to him. "I don't want anyone else to die. I don't want the war." "Neither do I, little one." "Neither do I. Can you stop it?" Marcus looked out the window at the alien stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was burning. His people were dying. The war was getting worse every day. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I'm going to try." It was a promise to his daughter, a promise to himself. And somehow, against all odds, it was a promise he intended to keep. The Hall of Silent Judgment was the oldest building on the Vethkai homeworld. It had stood for 10,000 years, through wars and plagues and the rise and fall of empires. Its walls were carved with the names of every Vethkai who had ever spoken before the Council of Blades. Today, for the first time in history, a human name would be added to those walls. Marcus stood at the center of the great chamber. Around him, arranged in rising circles, sat 100 of the most powerful Vethkai in existence. Generals, admirals, lords of ancient houses. They looked down at him with hatred, curiosity, and disgust. The Empress sat on her throne at the highest point of the chamber. Beside her, watching with wide eyes, sat Cirith. She was almost fully grown now, her shell dark and beautiful, her blade arms sharp and deadly. But her eyes were still the eyes of the child Marcus had found in that crashed ship. Afraid, hopeful, trusting. The head of the council, an ancient Vethkai named Virkith, rose to speak. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "We are gathered to discuss the human problem. Earth still exists. Humans still live. This is unacceptable. I move that we end the debate and launch the final attack. Let us burn their world and finish what we started." Roars of approval filled the chamber. Blade arms clashed against shells in the Vethkai gesture of agreement. Marcus felt his heart sink. This was not a trial. This was a death sentence being announced. But then the Empress raised one hand and the chamber fell silent. "Before we vote," she said, "there is one who wishes to speak. By the ancient law of Keth Orn, he has the right to be heard. I present Marcus Cole, bonded father of Princess Cirith, member of the Imperial bloodline." The silence turned to shock, then to anger. Vethkai shouted protests. This was impossible. A human could not speak before the council. A human could not be part of the Imperial bloodline, but the law was the law, and the Empress was the Empress. "Let him speak," she commanded, "or challenge my authority. Choose." No one challenged. No one dared. Marcus stepped forward. His legs were shaking, but his voice was steady. "Honored Council, you don't know me. You don't want to know me. I am human, and my people killed your children. For that crime, you have waged war against us for 30 years. You have killed millions of us, and now you want to kill millions more." He paused, looking around the chamber at the ancient faces watching him. "I'm not here to say we're innocent. We're not. The destruction of your nursery world was the greatest tragedy in human history. Whether it was an accident or not doesn't matter. Children died. Your children. And for that, no apology will ever be enough." The chamber was completely silent. No one had expected a human to admit guilt. But I'm also not here to beg for mercy. I'm here to tell you a story. The story of how I found a dying larva in a crashed ship. How I held her against my chest and let her claw into my flesh to stay warm. How I chose to save her even though she was my enemy. He pointed to the scars on his chest, still visible after all these months. I didn't save her because I'm special. I'm not. I'm an ordinary human. A teacher. A soldier. Nothing remarkable. I saved her because that's what humans do. When we see a child in danger, something inside us says no. We have to help. We have to protect. Even if it costs us everything. Marcus looked up at Cirith. She was watching him with tears in her 4 eyes. "Your people think humans are monsters. Simple creatures driven by violence and fear. But you're wrong. We are complicated. We can be cruel and we can be kind. We can destroy worlds and we can save lives. We are capable of the worst things imaginable and also the best." He turned back to the council. "I have lived among you for almost a year. I have learned your laws, your customs, your beliefs. And I have found that we are not so different. You love your children. You protect your families. You honor those who sacrifice for others. Now came the moment. The claim that would change everything or end everything. By your own law, I am Kethoran to Princess Cirith. By your own law, I am part of the Imperial bloodline. And by your own law, an attack on my people is an attack on me." The chamber exploded in noise. Vethkai shouted, argued, cursed. Verkith rose from his seat, his blade arms extended. "This is absurd. You cannot claim protection for an entire species." "Can I?" Marcus held his ground. "I am human. Every human is my family, just as every Vethkai is yours. If you destroy Earth, you destroy my family. And if you destroy my family, you attack me. And if you attack me," he looked up at the Empress, "you attack the Imperial bloodline itself." The chamber fell silent again. Every eye turned to the Empress. She sat perfectly still on her throne, her expression unreadable. This was the moment. If she rejected Marcus's claim, he would die. His people would die. Everything he had worked for would mean nothing. But if she accepted it, the Empress rose. She descended from her throne, step by step, until she stood before Marcus. She was so much larger than him, so much more powerful. One swing of her blade arm could end his life. Instead, she did something no Empress had done in 10,000 years. She placed her blade arms on his shoulders. It was the gesture of formal adoption. The gesture that made someone family in the truest, most binding sense of HFY law. "This human is my kin," she announced, her voice filling the chamber. "His people are under my protection. Any who attack them attack me. The war ends today." The council erupted. Some shouted in protest. Others sat in stunned silence. But the law was clear. The Empress had spoken. Her word was final. Verkith stepped forward. "Empress, you cannot do this. The blood debt must be paid." The blood debt was paid the moment this human bled for my daughter. Look at his scars. Look at what he sacrificed for a child that was not his own. He has paid more than any of us. She turned to face the council. "I have watched this human for nearly a year. I have studied his kind. And I have learned something that should have been obvious from the beginning. We started this war because humans destroyed our children. But this human saved our child. If we are to honor our laws, we must honor all of them. Blood for blood means mercy for mercy." The chamber was silent. Marcus could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. 1,000 years of war, ending in this moment. Millions of lives, saved or lost based on what happened next. One by one, the council members lowered their blade arms. It was the gesture of acceptance, of submission to the Empress's will. The war was over. Marcus felt his legs give out. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He had done it. Against all odds, against everything that should have been possible. He had done it. Cirith ran to him, wrapping her arms around him, her blade arms careful not to cut him. She was crying too, making the happy chirping sound he had first heard in that crashed ship so long ago. "You did it, Father," she whispered. "You saved everyone." Marcus held her tight. His daughter, his family, his bridge between two worlds that should have been enemies forever. "No," he said softly. "We did it together." And somewhere in the stars, on a small blue planet called Earth, millions of humans looked up at the sky and wondered why the attacks had suddenly stopped. They would learn the truth soon enough. They would learn about the human who had saved an alien child and changed the course of history. They would learn that mercy was not weakness, that compassion was not foolishness, that sometimes the bravest thing a person could do was refuse to be cruel. Marcus stayed on the HFY homeworld. He became an ambassador, a bridge between species, a father to a princess who grew more beautiful and strong with each passing year. He grew old among aliens who had learned to respect him, even love him. And when humans and HFY finally met in peace, when the first joint colonies were built and the first friendships were formed, everyone remembered the story of the soldier who had saved an enemy's child. They called it the greatest act of courage. In human history, Marcus just called it doing the right thing, because in the end, that was what being human meant. Not perfection, not strength, just a simple, stubborn refusal to let fear win. And sometimes that was enough to save the world.